Good evening. This is David Dutton in the Channel 1 America Command Center in Atlanta. It is 6:24. We're live from Atlanta with continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. And we have breaking news at this hour out of Atlanta right here in our own hometown. We have an active shooter situation that is underway right now in downtown Atlanta at Emory University in DeKalb County. Let's get the very latest as we go live to Fox 5 in Atlanta.
More than one scene here, not only at the CVS drugstore located right across the street from the CDC on Clifton Road, but perhaps other locations as well. Whether that means there's more than one suspect involved here, we don't know the answer to that question. What we do know about other casualties is that a police officer and somebody presumably inside the CVS who were hit by gunfire have been transported to Emory University Hospital, which is literally yards from where all of this is unfolding.
That's right. And we've also have confirmation that there have been gunshots that struck windows at our producer just reported that information in the last 10 minutes.
Here you're hearing new information just coming in right now that there are gunshots that have hit the CDC in Atlanta again. Gunshots, bullet holes in the windows at the CDC in downtown Atlanta. This is just near Emory University. We understand that an Atlanta police officer has been shot and has been rushed to Grady Hospital. Also, a person has been shot at a nearby CVS store. Again, this is an active shooter situation right now in downtown Atlanta at the Emory University campus and surrounding areas. Go immediately back to WAGA TV in Atlanta.
Happening on Briarcliff Road. Authorities will gather there to give us some more information. The Centers for Disease Control, a fortress of security, and you really got to hand it to police and first responders here who not only put their lives at risk to get situations like
We're following breaking news out of Atlanta where there is an active shooter situation right now on Clifton Road in DeKalb County. This is in downtown Atlanta at the Emory University campus. We understand that an Atlanta police officer has been shot and rushed to Grady Hospital. One bystander at CVS nearby has been shot. We do not know that person's condition right now. And we understand that there are bullet holes in the CDC in downtown Atlanta. We're having problems with our video, but let's get the audio back up here at Fox 5 and go back to that now live.
CVS, we don't know. We're still working to gather as much information and as quickly as possible and confirm it before we pass it along to you.
Also might be important to note, just last week, Dr. Susan Menares was just confirmed as the new director at the CDC. Unclear at this point whether she was there when all of this happened. But as we look into a motive for this, I'm sure, especially with the FBI being involved now in the early stages of an investigation, they're going to look at all of those potential things in the suspect's past, their history, if this could be some kind of a political related incident.
Well, Executive producer Cal Calloway is still in the newsroom. I just happened to be in the newsroom overhearing. He was dispatching an assignment to our reporters about the CDC perhaps visiting that campus on Monday, that she would be available for an interview with us on Monday. And I don't know if I heard correctly, maybe I didn't, but you have to wonder if something like that is going to change in the wake of what's happening here. You also have to wonder if the White House is keyed in on all of this, whether President Trump has been briefed, since this is such a high-profile federal institution, on what's happening. Police vehicles are streaming out of the Centers for Disease Control entrance right now. We see Fulton County Police there also on the scene. As I mentioned, this has turned into a multi-jurisdictional situation as police work to hopefully wrap up, which has been a very volatile scene which has been unfolding for a good part of the past 90 minutes here.
That's right. And just to recap how this all started, it came in just after 5 with an alert from Emory University. Close proximity to the scene where this is happening at the CVS at Emory Point just after 5 o'clock. An alert was sent out by the university telling people that there was an active shooter situation and to run, hide, fight. It was then that we started to see this massive law enforcement presence focusing around the building. At one point, we saw officers with guns drawn. They were taking cover behind a dumpster there as they focused in on the building. And here's a map just showing you an overhead view to really just highlight what we're looking at here. There at the top left of your screen is Emory Point. That is where the CVS is. This is where it appears to have all happened. And then just across the street, the CDC headquarters, and then also a stone's throw is Emory University's campus. So all of these things just intertwined. And also just a few minutes ago, our Deidre Duke said that she is hearing from her law enforcement sources that there may be multiple scenes involved.
As you're hearing there live from Fox 5, there may be, and as we've been reporting, there may be several scenes involved here. We understand that the shooting suspect has died. Again, the shooting suspect has died. This is just coming into Channel 1 America. According to Fox 5, WAGA TV in Atlanta, the suspect is dead. So the
law enforcement sources that there may be multiple scenes involved.
Hopefully the immediate threat is over.
In this area, especially in the morning, you might have an appointment at a university, doctor's appointment, or something going on there. You know how busy this area is. I mean, there is traffic along the Clifton Road corridor at times, and that CVS services a really busy area of DeKalb County, the North Druid Hills area, where you have people coming out of the hospital or the doctor's offices. You have people. Yes, you have the Centers for Disease Control. This happened just before 5 o'clock this evening. Many of the regularly scheduled employees would have been letting out at this time, and we showed you the pictures not too long ago of the bullet impacts on the windows of the CDC building, and we could only presume, based on the height of the office that we were looking at here, that it was in that main building there. This is a picture that somebody from inside the CDC sent us of the impact of that bullet. We just don't know if the CDC was a target. In other words, we don't know if guns were trained on this building. These long rifles have the ability to impact things pretty significantly. So whether it was targeted or not, we just don't know at this point, but we're getting reaction from the governor at this point, Governor Brian Kemp, who released a statement saying that twice this week, deranged criminals have targeted innocent Georgians. Each time, brave first responders rush toward the danger to subdue the shooter and save lives, reminding us of just how crucial they are. Marty, the girls, and I are thankful to all those who answered the call to serve and who protect their fellow Georgians. We ask that you join us in holding them in our prayers, along with those harmed this evening near the CDC center. That from Governor Brian Kemp, who obviously has been very keyed into this whole situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, something we've been talking about.
We want to let you know that the number one question at this hour is how the students and faculty doing at Emory University. We have no information on that at this time. The only thing that we have, that Emory University put out a tweet on X, if you will, I would say about an hour ago when this first started, that to shelter in place. So that's all we have for everybody to shelter in place right now. And but we have no fatalities reported at the moment. Again, this information is still early. The suspect is dead. We do have an Atlanta police officer that was shot at the Emory Point CVS, and he or she has been taken to Grady Hospital. We don't have a confirmed condition on the police officer at this time. We understand that another person was also shot at that CVS. We don't have information on their condition. We also understand that some of the bullets from this situation, everything, this is happening in the downtown area, is close by. The CDC center has windows shattered with bullets sprayed into the building at the CD Center in downtown Atlanta. Let's go back to WAGA TV as we continue our live team coverage.
Take a look at that scene. That is to the left is where that CVS is. A lot of the action is focused, it seems like, there. On that scene, there are apartment complexes that are above that CVS, and of course there are different businesses as well. You can see police tape, and of course I believe that is a SWAT unit. I saw a DeKalb County SWAT unit racing up through here earlier as well. Then let's take them out. If you see some Grady ambulances as well to the left, you can see a huddle, probably the command unit, but still a very active scene here on this area. And then closer down is still a C, and there's still people coming in, swapping out as they're getting ready for that press conference not too far from here as well. Just a perspective, this is probably about half a mile, maybe a little bit further than half, than Briarcliff when you're coming up to Clifton. On the opposite side is that entrance to the CDC Center is where you can really see a lot of that as well. You can see an ambulance turning around. I'm not sure if there's anyone in it or if they're preparing anyone to be transported inside, or if they're just mobilizing and parking that to the side. But there is still an immense presence here. And you can still see a helicopter, which I believe law enforcement helicopter. I don't believe that is one of our news helicopters, pretty close to the ground, that's still been circling around this area as well. They are still telling people, if you have to come to this area, you need to find somewhere else to go. This will last 4 hours, it is safe to say, here closer to the scene. Tom, Courtney, just wanted to walk you through what we're seeing as we had an advantage closer to Briarcliff, but now we're able to really get eyes from the ground view here as well. So a lot happening behind me.
Important that you mention, Eric, that just because the situation has been neutralized in terms of the possible shooter, that as you mentioned, the investigation is really just beginning, so it's anyone's guess how long this, as we said, busy corridor of Clifton Road linking Briarcliff to Emory University is going to remain shut down.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned that. So where I was earlier, where I wasn't able to go up any further, there were people there who lived in that apartment complex. They sent out some kind of coordination saying, it's not, you can't come in. They're not going to let you in and out, even if you do live there. I also, on my walk up, I passed by a couple of express buses. So this happened around 4 o'clock. Many of those buses coming in, taking those workers who live here at CDC or maybe Emory University or that hospital. Several of those buses are just parked to the side there. They can't go up any further, and they're kind of stuck in this scene here for quite some time. Not sure if there were anybody on those buses, but I saw those bus drivers standing up. Hey, Scott, do me a favor. Get ready. If you can, take it off for me and point back through there. You can see a procession of what looks like SWAT vehicles coming up through here, just showing that people are still coming in and out as well. So that looks like a pretty big truck that's going to be parading up to this scene as they just add on to the dozens of law enforcement officers that are already up here as well. I can't tell from this distance who they belong to, but just to show you that they're still just getting started. More police vehicles are coming in. I believe that might be Atlanta police, but of course they are starting to come in, and let's see where they park those vehicles here. We'll keep an eye on it, Tom, Courtney, but I just wanted to show you that before I left.
Yeah, remarkable to see that law enforcement continues to arrive on this scene now 2 hours almost into this developing situation, Eric. And just in the last 2 minutes, we're seeing an alert sent out from Emory University. They're saying a police emergency continues on the campus at Emory Point. Avoid the area now. Shelter in place has been lifted. So just kind of holds together with what we were seeing just about 20 to 30 minutes ago, where they were saying this is still very much an active situation.
I think at this point they just want people to stay away as this investigation continues to unfold. This is a traffic camera we believe, on Clifton Road, which showing a still active police presence. Given the high-profile nature of where all this happened, and the fact that we have an officer shot and another person, at least one other person, injured by gunfire, and here we have the Centers for Disease Control right across the street. This is going to be an investigation, Russ Spencer, that takes quite some time.
No doubt about that, Tom. I've been sitting here at the live desk watching this very camera. It's a G-dot camera, as you point out, at Clifton Road and CDC Parkway. On the bottom right of your screen right there is a SWAT vehicle, an armored vehicle that pulled up about 10 minutes ago and is right next to that body under the sheet. Whether they're going to remove that, we don't know. But everything that we're witnessing seems to confirm what Deidre Dukes has reported, that the shooter is dead, that there are multiple scenes. Perhaps that refers to the fact that multiple CDC buildings have bullet holes in them, appear to have been shot at. And as we look at that top left of your screen there, that G-dot camera, I'll report to you that about 10 minutes ago, I saw at least 24 police officers go down CDC Parkway toward the daycare center that Courtney has been referencing. Whether they weren't running, there was no urgency other than the fact that they were a phalanx of at least 24 officers who went down CDC Parkway toward the CDC, perhaps to investigate these buildings having been shot at.
Yeah, Russ, and you have to wonder, and I was going to ask Eric Perry about this, and it's unfair really to ask you, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud, and perhaps you can do that with me. What became of the employees inside the CDC who hadn't left for the day yet, or the people that might live in that apartment building above the CVS drugstore, or as Courtney mentioned, perhaps there's still children inside the daycare. I mean, there's just so much happening on Clifton Road, and are people sheltering in place? Are they being allowed to leave CDC for the day, leave work? It's Friday afternoon, and
right. Well, I have some new information, Tom, that was just handed to me here at the live desk from DeKalb County Government Communications, which will offer some comfort to people who live in the area. Law enforcement currently responding to an incident involving an armed individual on or near the Emory University campus in DeKalb. The situation is contained, and there is no active threat to the public at this time. This, again, from DeKalb County Government Communications. We are asking all residents and members of the campus communities to remain indoors as a precaution while the investigation continues. Out of an abundance of caution and in the interest of public safety, we are also requesting news media outlets. Well, that's what happens with phones. It turned off. To move out of the way. So there you go. But that's the
most important information out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
yeah, that'll be reassuring information for people in that area who may be wondering, is my window next? They're saying now that the threat has been neutralized. I'm sure a lot of people who live there or possibly work there will be breathing a sigh of relief.
Skyfox 5 flying over the scene right now. I just saw our transmitter tower, and that was kind of an interesting shot because it gives you an idea of just how close the Fox 5 studios are to. Is this from our tower, by the way? Do we know that in the control room? Yeah, this is from our tower. This is basically on the roof of our building here. So it just gives you an idea of how close we are. Fox 5's Eric Perry stationed out there on Clifton Road, monitoring the activity of police. Eric, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Tom, Courtney. So I talked to this man right here. He didn't want to interview live with us, but he wanted to share these details. His child, we talked about this earlier, and I heard you guys talking about it, that daycare that is right next to that CDC building, his child is in there right now. So, of course, he is a worried parent that came over here to pick up his child. He says that they got an alert that all of those kids are safe at the moment, so that is the blessing in all of this. He doesn't believe that any of those kids inside that daycare facility, which would be right across the street from this CVS, next to the CDC. That's where his child is, and he believes that they will be okay, that they say that they will bring those children and those small kids out to meet the parents. But he told me he's not going anywhere until he lays eyes on his little one. And of course, this is around the time that they would be picking up as well. So any of those parents might be rushing here as well. According to this parent and the alert that he received, he says that those kids there at that daycare center next to the CDC are okay as well. And just reiterating that statement from Lorraine Cochran Johnson, the CEO of DeKalb County, she's sending her thoughts and prayers to those impacted by this, and she's also thanking law enforcement officers. It seems that she probably will have another statement and wouldn't be shocked if she was at that press conference that is set to take place any minute now. Scott, can you focus over there to my right, to the camera's left as well? Lady in the pink shirt, woman who looks to be maybe in scrubs, not in another man in the green shirt. We've been seeing them. They're just inside, so I'm not sure if they might have been at the CVS or if maybe they were in the CDC, but it looks like they have some sort of connection to what happened. Maybe they were there. They've been talking with law enforcement officers. They haven't gotten close enough so I can ask any of my questions, but of course the first concern is for law enforcement. It looks like they're taking statements with investigators, and that's what we have seen now. So it has gone from that more active and running situation with law enforcement to now they're scouring the scene. I've seen them looking over in the bushes to make sure that they are combing through any type of evidence or any type of thing that might be happening in talking with a lot of the people who might have been in the area when all of this unfolded. Tom, Courtney?
Yeah, it has to be such a relief to parents like the gentleman you spoke with to know that their kids are okay. Just knowing that this was a shooting where there were bullet holes that hit windows as far as we can see, and that we have confirmed that one of them hit a window that is located in the building directly behind, within view of the daycare center. Did this man tell you if he's been told if there is a staging area, or were there directions given for parents to get their kids who are still sheltering in the daycare center?
He has not. He said that I saw him talking to an officer, and the officer told him to stay right here in the area. That's why he really didn't want to move. But you can still hear some sirens coming in as people are coming in and out. But he was told to stay here in this area. I'm assuming.
Again, this is David Etton at the Channel 1 America Command Center in Atlanta. We're covering breaking news at this hour. It's 6:46 p.m. Eastern Time on a Friday night out of Atlanta, where for the second time in a week, there is been a shooting in Georgia. We understand it initiated around the Emory University campus in Atlanta.
Where this scene is trying to get to their child.
There's also an Atlanta police officer that was shot at Grady Hospital at this hour. Let's go back to WAGA TV in Atlanta as our live team coverage continues. By the way, just in shelter in place at Emory has been lifted. Again, shelter in place has been lifted.
That they weren't involved somehow in this melee, this fatal melee that happened earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, he was just really grateful to get that message. He said that his child was going to be okay. Our Kim Luffler, who is at the hospital, she sent in an email of a screenshot because where that CVS is, which is on the other side, that there are different studios. There's an Orange Theory there. There are eateries there. There's a ballet studio there. They've been canceling classes because, as you can see, no one's able to come in, and I haven't seen a lot of people leaving this area as well. So if you have any type of business that's up there, you can expect those canceled classes, those canceled reservations. They're not letting anyone near that scene, Tom. This is as close as we've been able to get, and those on the other side of the tape, they're not going to be able to get any closer to that CVS or really this area.
Yeah, it's been a literal blockade, if you will, Eric, as we can see from the perspective of your camera there, and being one of the first reporters there on the scene in the early going, you just fired up your cell phone and you showed us what was going on in the early moments after this shooting unfolded just before 5 o'clock this afternoon. To give you a quick recap, just located within a mile of our studios here at Fox 5 and directly across the street from the the Centers for Disease Control. At least one gunman opening fire there at the CVS drugstore, which is located feet away from the CDC, just across the street. We know that that suspect is dead. We saw from our helicopter earlier the body being brought out of the drugstore underneath a white sheet. We know that at least one civilian victim and one police officer have been transported to Emory University Hospital, which you could walk to from the CVS drugstore there on Clifton Road to be treated. We heard something about surgery involving the officer. We're working to learn more information about that. We are expecting a news conference from officials from the Kroger parking lot, which, if you've driven Clifton Road, you know that there's an uphill to the CVS from Briarcliff. Well, Kroger's just downhill from that area and very close in proximity to where all of this unfolded.
Yeah, this is all happening, of course, in an area that is just highly populated, densely populated with, as Eric mentioned, dance studios, restaurants. There are apartments on the upper levels in that same Emory Point Center where the CVS is located. And so now we're understanding that that shelter-in-place order has been lifted and that the threat has been neutralized. Good to report that the children who were in the daycare center that's on the CDC campus are okay. Our Eric Perry is there and talked with a father who's still waiting to pick up his child, but sure to be a relief for him and many other parents who are still waiting to pick up their kids. Although it might take some time, as there are so many streets that are blocked off with this massive police presence that's still there in the area.
And so a couple of elements that we got into the Fox 5 newsroom. One of them was a gunshot that struck the CDC headquarters building across the street. And we know of at least one impact here. Take a look at that, and if you can see out the window how high that bullet went before it impacted the window there. These are obviously impact-resistant windows, and so the bullet, as far as we know, didn't penetrate.
We understand was located. Here is what Governor Brian Kemp is saying in reaction to the shooting. He said this: twice this week, deranged criminals have targeted innocent Georgians. Each time, brave first responders rushed toward the danger to subdue the shooter and save lives, reminding us just how crucial they are. Marty, the girls and I are thankful for all those who answer the call to serve and who protect their fellow Georgians. We ask that you join us in holding them in our prayers, along with those harmed this evening near the CDC center. So Governor Kemp obviously referring to that shooting we saw at Fort Stewart earlier this week, in which 5 soldiers were shot by their fellow soldier. Thankfully, those soldiers pulled through. They were injured, of course, but also the CEO of DeKalb County is also responding to this situation. Here's her statement: "My thoughts and prayers are with all those affected by today's incident on the Emory campus. I am grateful for the swift and coordinated response from our law enforcement agencies and first responders. We are closely monitoring the situation and will provide updates as they become available." She says this: "I urge everyone to stay alert, remain indoors, and follow official guidance as we allow law enforcement to complete their investigation." So we continue to see this very large police presence there in the area. You see them still lining the street up and down Clifton Road. That is the street that divides the CVS there on the left. You can see the daycare center that we've been referring to there on the right on the CDC campus. And our Eric Perry, who is there on the ground, said just a few minutes ago he saw a SWAT vehicle head in the direction of the CDC campus with some of their SWAT team members there on the back of the truck.
And we mentioned, Courtney, you pointed out earlier that there's a daycare center right there, just feet away from where all of this unfolded. We saw some concerned parents waiting there perhaps to collect their children. We know that that wasn't wasn't involved in this situation, mercifully. So we showed you the element where the bullet, presumably from a long rifle, hit the CDC. I want to play for you, and if we still have that sound in the control room, I'll give you a second to cue that up. What we heard in the moments when all of this unfolded, we heard the warning sirens wail earlier, and we caught some sound of that in the early stages of all of this unfolding. Listen to this. That was an alert siren put out in the CDC area. This is the backyard of Fox 5, just to give you an idea of how close we are to where all of this unfolded and why our reporters were among the first there on the scene to report on what was going on in the early moments of when all of this chaos and confusion unfolded there in the CVS drugstore across the street from the CDC. We know that gunman has been neutralized, is dead, and we know that 2 casualties, including at least 1 police officer, have been transported to Emory University Hospital to be treated.
Yeah, and this quick update here from Atlanta Police. They're now saying that the incident involved a single shooter who is now deceased. 1 law enforcement officer was injured, as we know. Let's get out to our Eric Perry. He's been standing by there on the ground. Eric, what's the latest there?
Yeah, so you mentioned that I saw some SWAT officers on the back of a truck. They went into that CDC as well. I've been messaging several of my sources who work at the CDC. One of them told me they left right before all of this happened, but several of their colleagues are still inside. So we can maybe presume that maybe they're going to do a sweep inside that CDC to get those people out safely. But this all happened as people were wrapping up working or their work day here on a Friday. But I'm told that there still are people inside of the CDC that we're still sheltering in place, still on lockdown. So it is safe to presume that maybe they're going inside to bring them out safely. I'm looking over. I saw that father who was standing right there. He went to the other side there. I'm not sure if he got any new information or maybe was able to be reunited with his child there. But again, we are learning that there's still several employees that might still be inside that CDC sheltering in place during all of this. And I'm asking to see just exactly what that siren was. Did that come from the CDC or was that something that Emory implemented as well? So we'll work to get that information for you, Courtney and Tom.
All right, great reporting there, Eric Perry, one of the first reporters on the scene there, letting us know that there are still employees inside the CDC headquarters, you know, waiting to go home on a Friday night, you know, thanking God that they're safe, but probably anxious to get home to their loved ones and give everyone a big hug. Fox 5's Russ Spencer out in the newsroom collecting more information. Russ, what do you know?
Well, Tom and Courtney, you've done an excellent job recapping how all of this unfolded. I just want to add some perspective from the very beginning of this at 5 o'clock when we had Sky Fox over the scene. You talk about an active shooter situation. There were DeKalb police officers huddled behind their vehicle that was riddled literally with dozens of bullets. This was the scene earlier as they came up into that parking lot, and this is what I'm talking about, hiding behind that vehicle. Do you see all the bullet holes in the windshield and in the front of that vehicle? That was the confrontation. So as we reflect on this, the active shooter situation is over. Again, the shooter has been neutralized, but this could have been a lot worse because that person was armed and ready to go and had a large weapon. We'll keep that officer in our prayers and keep you up to date as we learn more about his condition as he's in surgery as we speak, and the civilian for that matter. Tom and Courtney, back to you.
Yeah, you said it, Russ. This could have been so much worse, especially with more students in the area. If this had happened in a few weeks, there would have been a lot more people on the campus as classes would have started for the fall session.
It's 7 o'clock and we're live from Atlanta. We're continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. Good evening. David Dutton here in the command center in Atlanta. We're following breaking news out of Atlanta, in specific DeKalb County, where there was an active shooter that has now been neutralized on the Emory University campus. It all started about 2 hours ago, just before 5 o'clock, where sirens were heard in the backyard of Fox 5 in Atlanta. They're located just a mile away. The tornado sirens went off for this immediate emergency in the Atlanta area. Gunshots were fired, but we understand at this moment, this is 2 hours later, we have no information that says that any of the students or faculty on the Emory University campus have been injured. Nothing from Emory saying anything of that nature. What we do know is that one Atlanta police officer has been shot and has been taken to a nearby hospital, and also someone was injured at the CVS nearby. A lot of locations, a lot of bullets flying all over the Atlanta and DeKalb County area tonight, as this active shooter was in the area of Emory. We have shattered windows at the CDC in Atlanta. The person that was shot at CVS in Atlanta has also been taken to a nearby hospital downtown. And this is the second shooting in Georgia this week. Of course, the first one earlier this week at Fort Stewart, where 5 soldiers were shot. We have no reports of fatalities at this time. This is 2 hours later. We are expecting a news conference that is pending shortly, and we hope we can bring that to you live. And that's being set up at a nearby Kroger, in the Kroger parking lot. And we hope we can bring that to you here. This is happening in DeKalb County off of Clifton Road, near Fox 5, near the CDC Center, the CVS, a lot of locations there. Initiated at the Atlanta Emory University campus. No one on the Emory University campus has been injured, or there's no fatalities been reported. We do have injuries. An Atlanta police officer and a bystander at the CVS was shot. We have bullet holes in the CDC downtown as well. And sirens were heard in the backyard of Fox 5 Atlanta as the gun was being fired by the suspect. Again, you're watching continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. I'm David Dutton, live from the command center here in Atlanta. We're going to go now to Atlanta News First as our live team coverage continues. We have some unfortunate breaking news that is just coming in right now. The WANF in Atlanta is reporting the police officer is dead after an active shooter situation on near the university, Emory University campus. Again, the Atlanta police officer is dead, according to WANF TV in Atlanta. We now have our first fatality out of this situation. Atlanta police officer dead after an active shooter at Emory University. Let's get the very latest now as we go to Atlanta News First in Atlanta.
So I'm going to go ahead and read that because Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens says, quote, "My thoughts are with the county police officer injured in today's incident near Emory University. We are grateful for the swift response of all law enforcement agencies who work together to secure the scene and protect the public. Now, we do want to update you again. We have since learned that that officer has died." . 'Cause 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 'c So Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens issuing this statement before apparently receiving word that the officer has lost his life. But he goes on to say, while the suspect is deceased and there is no ongoing threat, I urge everyone to continue avoiding the area as the Atlanta Police Department leads the investigation. So a little bit of new information there, because we saw multiple different agencies on hand. It was a little bit unclear who exactly was the point person,
Right.
so to speak. So now we have learned that Atlanta Police will be leading this investigation. And we do want to reiterate that the officer who has not yet been identified has died. The suspected shooter, who has also not been identified, has also died.
So we don't know about any other injuries at this point, and that's some of the new information we expect from law enforcement when they give us an update here. We know the shelter in place has been lifted as well there at Emory University. Again, all this taking place on Clifton Road, which is right across near where the CDC's headquarters is as well. And so when we talk about the amount of gunfire and the crime scene, it could be a very large crime scene that law enforcement is dealing with here, which is why you see such a wide area blocked off, and we're able to get different viewpoints of what they're dealing with out there here tonight. But questions unfolded here this afternoon. Law enforcement was very concerned, as we saw live here on Atlanta News First. Their response there, position outside the CVS, and now to know that a police officer has been killed here today, and the suspect is also dead at this hour.
And we have heard from a number of people there on scene. We have spoken with people who work at a nearby restaurant who reported hearing several gunshots. We spoke to someone who lives in the apartments nearby who said he heard what he thought was construction work at first, just due to how loud it was. But we want to play now for you some of those interviews that we received from some of the witnesses who were nearby.
Just the first reaction is to freak out because something was telling me not to leave the hospital, and I left, and then to see this. But yeah, very shocking. I was really shocked. I mean, I was leaving the hospital. I spent the night. I've been with my mom, and then I just saw cops everywhere. I stopped and asked a cop what was going on, and he just said there's an active shooter. And then my friend called me on the phone and told me the same thing. Thankfully, the alert went out and everything, but I had a coworker that went by and she's like, "Have you gotten your kids?" Because I think she heard it first, and I was like, as soon as she told me that, I was like speeding. I was getting here as fast as I could, and so it's pretty scary, and like it's not something that you ever want to experience.
And so you're listening to some of the people from what they have heard and seen and felt here today in this active shooter situation that has unfolded here this afternoon in DeKalb County. You're looking at live pictures from the scene where law enforcement is right now, the investigation taking place, and so many of the questions have been, what's the extent of this active shooter? What happened at that CVS store where this all unfolded, the Emory Point CVS there at Emory University? Was anyone else? Hurt. We know a lot of people saw things today that they should not have seen.
And heard things certainly they should not have heard. We did see ambulances outside, as well as a number of other emergency vehicles. Again, we have not at this hour received any reports of injuries other than what we have already reported, that one officer has died, that the suspected shooter has died. We are working to figure out who else, if anyone else, may have been hurt as a result. But what we do know is, based on the interviews that our reporters have brought to us, that what people have had to deal with emotionally, what people have had to process, that is unfortunately not going to go away anytime soon. When you see a scene like this, when you hear rapid gunfire, which is what people had described to us, when you look at the images like a bullet hole in your office window, right, those are images that unfortunately are going to stick with the people who were impacted by this today for a very long time.
We have a team of reporters out there today talking with witnesses about what they saw and heard. We know that our Atlanta News First investigator, Anastasia Almost, also spoke with someone out there about what they heard, what they saw, and that person described it as some kind of shootout. So that certainly will be something that we'll be asking about when this news conference begins. It looks like we may be getting closer to that. Just a few minutes ago, Carly, while you were talking, You know that Atlanta police did say that they were staging for an area for a news conference, so they may be getting closer to that. We saw Atlanta City Mayor Andre Dickens out on the scene as well, talking with law enforcement, getting that information, and then just a few minutes after that, that's when we had confirmed with our sources that a law enforcement officer is dead after this active shooter situation that's unfolded here today.
And we have our reporter Niamani Watson standing by. She is at the staging area where we are expected really any moment now, Niamani, to get an update from law enforcement. Have you heard anything at this point? We know everybody there anxiously watching and waiting to get more details about what occurred here this evening.
Right. Again, we are waiting for officials to give a statement. We're here at the Kroger on Briarcliff Road, where we're expected to hear from the Atlanta Police Department. We also know Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens is on scene. We're not sure if we're going to get a statement from him during the press conference. We are waiting to hear from officials because, again, we do have a lot of questions. I know everyone has a lot of questions on what unfolded here at the Emory campus. But I do want to reiterate a statement Mayor Dickens put out earlier today, saying his thoughts are with the DeKalb County police officer who we now know has died in today's incident near Emory University. He says he's grateful for the swift response of all law enforcement agencies who work together to secure the scene and protect the public. Now, again, we are still waiting on officials to speak about the incident, like what led to the shooting, what unfolded, also the identities of that officer and the suspect as well. We'll continue to keep you updated and let you know the moment we hear from officials. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Niamani, we hope to be checking back with you here shortly so that we can get the official response to what took place.
And this took place in front of a lot of people here today. Being a Friday afternoon, our best guess at this point was around 5 o'clock when Emory University, the campus, sent out this alert, and there was an intense warning from law enforcement, from campus officials, telling people to run, hide, fight, stay away. And we saw the response by law enforcement then, just a few minutes after that, with their guns out, and they had very intense warnings to people in that community. And then as this unfolded, we heard from people who heard the rounds of gunfire and saw what happened. And so this playing out on a Friday afternoon, right when most people are headed home, certainly impacting a lot of people who have concerns about what's unfolded.
Oh, we heard from parents who were just trying to pick up their children from a nearby daycare. And we saw from reporter Andy Parati showing us those images, just how close that playground, that daycare is to where this shooting took place. And there are so many different, because of where this shooting took place, there are so many different people impacted. We know that there were people there at the CDC. We know that there are hospital workers nearby, the employees of the CVS, as Atlanta News First anchor Joe Gorcho had talked about, parents. So really so many people impacted just by the location of this because so many different things going on, restaurants nearby. Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe, he is standing by live for us now. All right, Brendan, have you learned any other further details? Want to check back in with you now.
Yeah, we are waiting for the confirmation of exactly which agency is involved because so many agencies are here, not only on the scene, which is about a quarter mile this way, but also here at Emory Hospital behind me. We are seeing sheriff's deputies and also from different, by the way, counties. DeKalb County and also Fulton County are filing in to the hospital, and we've seen a lot of people hugging. At this point, we do not know the agency, and because we don't know that the officer's next of kin has been notified, we are obviously going to wait for that official word of which agency, because we know law enforcement families are watching, and we want to keep that in mind. Let's just take a brief walk if we can. I just want to show you, there's going to be quite a bit of light change, and I apologize here. There's all these different police vehicles. Can we step this way? I just want to show you just how massive a scene we're talking about, because it stretches for, gosh, a half mile. As far as the eye can see here, all the way down, you've got police vehicles from DeKalb County Sheriff, from the GSP, from the City of Atlanta, from Fulton County. We've seen some from Dunwoody, from Sandy Springs, a tremendous amount of law enforcement. And oh, by the way, as this car passed, we'll use that as an opportunity to pan right to show that it extends further down the block, and you've got even more here.
This was an all-hands-on-deck situation here. I'll step in just so we don't have to walk all the way back to where we were. All hands-on-deck situation, as you know, and we also have 2 different police helicopters overhead. I'm one of the station's drone pilots. I've been flying a drone professionally for over 10 years. I was going to get the drone up until I saw just how low flying the police helicopters are. I'm looking at a Hughes 500 OH3 flying over. It's well below 500 feet, so we just couldn't get the drone up to give you some of those aerial shots. We've been relying on our news helicopter. So that is an abundance of caution and safety. And the other thing we don't want to do is get in the way of a law enforcement response. It's a serious situation. We have a police officer who is dead. We have a suspect who is dead. We have possibly other injured and other casualties that we may be learning about as we get more details. This is going to be a major investigation, and as we've already reported, we've seen, just stepping aside here for a second, Georgia State Patrol trooper passing by. And this is important to point out that the GSP is not an investigative agency in terms of major crimes. They're a highway patrol first and foremost. The GBI is the state's investigating agency. That's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They are an invitation agency. They have to be invited in. You see them on major cases like this. You see them on almost every law enforcement involved shooting. And in a moment, we are going to show you some video that we've obtained. Anastasia Olmos is going to break that down. But we do know that because of that video, there was definitely a shootout in the streets outside of that CVS with police officers taking cover and firing multiple rounds. We do know that's confirmed. And unfortunately, we also know that we've lost an officer here tonight. We've also got a suspect who is down, so we may no suspect to interview. But as the governor said, that suspect was neutralized by police who were clearly stepping into the line of fire to protect the public. That's what we know right here, right now at Emory Hospital. I'm Brendan Keefe, Chief Investigator, Atlanta News First Investigates.
Brendan, thank you for that live report.
Our team coverage continues now with Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn, who's also out there on scene. And Patrick, I'm sorry, kind of hang with us for a second, looking at these live pictures.
Blair, do you see this person in handcuffs right here in the red shirt? Do you see the person in handcuffs? We see surrounding him. He is clearly in handcuffs. It looks like he's detained. A number of officers are surrounding him. Not sure his role in this. Obviously not. We need to learn a lot more about who this person is and how he is involved, but certainly he is in handcuffs, detained by, it looks like, officers from the Atlanta Police Department. They are checking his pants right now. They're searching him as it looks right now. This white man, red shirt in the middle of your screen, brown hair. We just saw him walk out, and he was escorted by roughly 10 or so officers leaving the site of the CDC. We're still trying to gather intel on who this man is. This is the first person that we have seen detained by officers today. We are certainly trying to learn more about him. He's got his back to us right now, as you can see him, and surrounding him are those officers. We'll continue to watch this scene here. This would suggest that the investigation, if this is...
Again, we're live from Atlanta with continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. Shooting in Atlanta tonight at the Emory University. We, as you just seen live on our air, we have another person, we don't know quite who it is, that has been detained by Atlanta police. There you see him right there, back turned to the camera. The shooter that initiated all this is dead. There you see a pending press conference at the Kroger in DeKalb County there. This happening not far from Fox 5 Atlanta. In their backyard, they took a video of apparently the sirens that went off in the area of downtown and DeKalb County with this active shooter. They issued the let the tornado sirens go off to let the public know that there was an active shooter. It appears now that most of this happened outside. A woman was injured at the CVS. An Atlanta police officer was also injured there at the CVS nearby Emory. We don't have a condition on the person that was shot, the civilian at CVS, but we do understand now, unfortunately, that Atlanta police officer that was shot there has died from his injuries. Again, the shooter is dead, so 2 people are dead, at least one, maybe more, injured. None of these are students or faculty at Emory University. No one there has been injured or killed, to the best of our knowledge right now. Over 2 hours, 20 minutes into this, and we've not heard anything from Emory other than there was a lockdown, shelter in place, and that has now been lifted just a few moments ago. The shelter in place has now been lifted. The suspect is dead, an Atlanta police officer dead, and another person at a nearby CVS was also shot. There are several crime scenes in and around the Emory University area right now where this is taking place. Again, the CVS, the CDC was shot out. There are several bullet holes. You can't penetrate the CDC, but the windows are shattered. The bullet did not go into the building because they have those such windows where nothing will penetrate it, but it definitely did shatter it. And so we have that as well. There you see a picture that someone took from their cell phone at the local CVS where the Atlanta police officer was shot and killed, and another bystander was also shot and rushed to a nearby hospital in Atlanta. Let's go back now to WANF, Atlanta News First, continuing coverage.
Around the corner and shooting at someone or something there in the street. We do know that there have been injuries, there have been fatalities here, and so we don't know exactly if any of those gunshots did hit anyone. But I also want you to hear from her. Her name is Makia Jones. Listen to we're actually going to play that here as soon as we can get to it, but I just wanted to describe kind of what she heard there. She said it happened in 2 rounds. She said about 4 gunshots each is what she initially heard coming from.
It is 7:21 Eastern Time. We're live from Atlanta with continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather here on Channel 1 America.
Believed was an automatic repeating gunshot, at least twice. She believes about 4 times each, for a total of around 8 to 10 gunshots. That was the initial of what she heard. And then this video that she took was at 5:03 p.m. where she said she heard and then looked and saw the police in this shootout where you heard those gunshots there that just kind of kept going as he turned around the corner.
And Anastasia, we know you and the rest of the Investigates team helped to coordinate actually a phone interview as well with another person from a nearby business who worked at a nearby restaurant. And this is falling in line a bit with what she said, where she said she heard at least 10 gunshots. And she said she was right next to this CVS, if not maybe just a few doors down, and all of her restaurant having to essentially shelter in place, hiding in the back of the kitchen. So what I think it sounds like is consistent across all of these reports is that there were several gunshots at least 10 gunshots or close to it.
And most, are you hearing most of this was outside the CVS?
Right. So initially, you know, when we looked at the footage of the officers pointing their guns, it looked like they were pointing into the CVS. And so originally we thought the shooting had occurred inside the CVS, which we don't know, you know, where it may have led. But she, according to what she was filming right there, they were shooting, as you could see, onto the street. Something was right there on the street. And as we know, across from that CVS is the university and the CDC building. We did see those photos of the bullet holes in the windows of the CDC. So those original shots, we're not sure exactly where those went.
And I do want to kind of give a little perspective as to what we're seeing right now. This is across from the CVS, obviously on the other side where these shops and apartments are, but it's on the other side of this CVS. That's where Clifton Road is. And if you have been joining us here on Atlanta News First since the beginning, it is on the other side that you saw almost what looked like white columns and a staircase, and that is where we saw law enforcement positioning themselves. And Blair, at one point, we saw dozens of law enforcement officers, guns drawn, approaching the entrance from the other side. So where we are appearing to see a law enforcement officer engaging with someone or something, as you said, Anastasia, inside, it was on the other side that we saw law enforcement going up the stairs and entering the CVS through that way.
Well, and we don't know what happened before that video, too. I mean, think about how long it takes to get your phone, get your camera going, actually take the video, and while you're hearing gunfire.
You know, I'm looking back at my timestamps, and we started hearing about a shooting here around 5 o'clock, right? We weren't sure we were still on air. We just weren't sure what was, you know, reportable. But about 5:04 is when I got the first message from my management that something was going on. And if that video took place at 5:03, and the video that we saw from the chopper, that must have been 20 to 30 minutes after. So this would have definitely been the initial shooting that took place.
And that is why these accounts from Atlanta News First viewers are so helpful, because it helps us to sort of paint this timeline as we wait to get more word officially from law enforcement, but it allows us to paint a better picture of the scene there today.
You know, even one of my colleagues on the investigative team at Atlanta News First Investigates, we were sending out texts. We were, you know, looking and searching, and one of our colleagues, he just messaged his friend that works at the CDC, and he had said, you know, I'm hearing about this, and the friend hadn't heard anything about it yet.
Gosh.
I don't know exactly where that friend was, but an employee that works in the building had still not even heard when we had heard, and then that's when he forwarded us, you know, some of the language that was going out about an active shooter and a lockdown. But this information coming out so fast, and us just, you know, making phone calls, trying to see, are people okay? Are you on lockdown? And, you know, that sushi restaurant that we spoke to earlier saying, yeah, we had customers in here, we were on lockdown, and as I was on the phone with her, a man was talking to her while I was on the phone with her, and she said, it's the police. The police were talking to her as I was talking to her, and so we're really trying to learn what's going on as it's happening.
We are getting just little bits and pieces of information. As we have said, we know that an officer has lost their life today. We do not know which department they were with, but we have learned that everyone from the Atlanta Police Department is okay. Atlanta Police says all of their officers are all right. We do know they are leading now this investigation. So again, it's still unclear the identity of the officer, what department they were with, but we do know they were not from Atlanta Police.
We also know the suspected shooter is dead in all this, and so, but whatever else happened outside the CVS before or after the video Anastasia was just showing us, what may have happened inside that CVS, because as you were pointing out, Carly, we saw law enforcement officers with their guns out, pointed at what looked like the front door of that CVS, aiming toward that. So it concerns me what was happening inside that store.
And Anastasia, I've just been told that we actually have the sound from who you spoke with. Let's go ahead and play that now.
Okay, great.
It wasn't until the police officers, it was like 4 to 5 police officers running back and forth trying to get him, and it was 3 who was really silent. But the main person that you can see, he was the main one shooting at the actual perpetrator, but there was like 2 to 3 other people that were there as well. And it was very distinctively like near semi-automatic, like back-to-back banging. So it's like do-do-do-do-do, it paused, do-do-do-do-do-do, it paused again, do-do-do-do-do-do, never heard anything like that before.
Guys, when I finished that interview with her, the only thing I walked away with immediately in my head was the sound that she was making right there. Do, 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 because that was.
And again, we're learning that the a police officer, we want to make a clarification, a police officer has been shot and killed. We do not know what department definitively the police officer was from at this time. We hope to learn more on all this from a news conference expected shortly.
The rest of the appointments there. And she said, as of right now, there's still helicopters flying over. She said she can still hear them, and the street is still blocked off.
Anastasia Olmos with Atlanta News First Investigates. Thank you so much for getting that interview for us. We know that's a terribly difficult thing for someone to have to relay, as you mentioned, going through the shock of that situation and just trying to articulate it as best they can. We do have some breaking updates now that we've just learned.
Yeah, Carly, some information from CNN, and we are a CNN affiliate, so we're able to share some of this information and some of their reporting that police believe, after speaking with the shooter's family, that the CDC was the target. They go on to report that after speaking with the suspected shooter's family members, police are operating under the theory that he was either sick or believed that he was sick and blamed the illness on the COVID-19 vaccine. A law enforcement official is telling that to CNN. And again, we're sharing that as a CNN affiliate. We are trying to confirm that with our sources as well. And it'll be interesting to see how far law enforcement goes in talking about that in this update that we're expecting here almost any minute. But again, that may be the theory that they're working under right now. That's information coming to CNN that perhaps the CDC was the target in all of this today.
And as you're hearing along with us from WANF in Atlanta News First, this just in, CNN is reporting that the apparently a man that was the shooter, who is now dead, the target was the CDC in downtown Atlanta, not Emory University. His target, according to his own family members that Atlanta police have talked to already in this ordeal, was the CDC center. Now, the reason, according to the shooter's family, the CDC was a target is because apparently the shooter, who is believed to be a male, had an illness that he's claimed that was from the COVID-19 vaccine. And again, this is all the theory right now that the Atlanta police are investigating and working on. But again, according to Atlanta police, according to CNN, Atlanta police talked to the shooter's family this evening. After everything was said and done, the target was apparently the CDC in Atlanta. Apparently, the person had an illness that he blamed on the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's the very latest on that, as we continue to see, along with you, these shattered windows at the CDC in Atlanta. So apparently, hopefully we'll get an update on all this if they talk about it in a press conference that's expected anytime now at the Kroger there in Atlanta, DeKalb County. But again, the target, CDC, not Emory University. Everyone at Emory University is fine, according to the latest information that we have in the command center at this hour. What we do know is a area police officer has been shot and killed, unfortunately, in all this, and the shooter is dead. One other person has been injured at the CVS nearby, was hit with a gunshot there, and has been taken to a Atlanta hospital. The shelter in place at Emory has been lifted. Again, no one there hurt. The campus was on lockdown, of course, as all this was going on. Apparently, instead of this happening inside Emory, this happened outside of the Emory area, in and around the CDC Center and the CVS, which is next door. Just a mile away is Fox 5 in Atlanta on Briarcliff Road. They shared a video earlier of sirens going off with gunshots in the background, as this initially took place just after 5 late this afternoon, about 2.5 hours ago. Just after 7:30, I'm David Dutton in the Channel One America Command Center here in Atlanta, bringing you continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. We have breaking news to tell you about right now. According to CNN, their source being the Atlanta Police Department, maybe we'll get more on this shortly in a pending news conference, that they have talked to the shooter, who's apparently a male and is deceased now. We don't know who, what, when, and why about that. Maybe we'll learn that shortly as well. They talked to the shooter's family tonight and have found that the target was not Emory or CVS. It was the CDC Center in Atlanta, apparently because the COVID shot, in his words, gave him an illness. That is a quote from the family of the shooter tonight. Our live team coverage continues at this hour of this breaking story as we go back now to WANF Atlanta.
This is the death of a police officer today in what has happened here in DeKalb County today. We have not confirmed that officer's identity, and we have not confirmed how that situation unfolded, but we do know a local law enforcement officer was killed in today's active shooter incident.
And our chief investigator, Brendan Keefe, he is actually live outside of the hospital where we know that officer was taken and had lost his life. Brendan, we know this is a fluid situation. You actually may have moved since we last spoke with you.
Real quick, because I'm sorry, Brendan, listen to this while we're kind of reading at the same time, because it looks like we just got a quick update, and I'm just going to read it real quick. And they're saying there's no ongoing threat to the Emory campus or the surrounding neighborhood. The incident involved a single shooter who is now deceased. One law enforcement officer was injured, in the course of the response. They're still asking folks to avoid the area, but that's some of the information that just came out here in an update we just got here a minute ago. But sorry to break it up. Go ahead, Carly.
And also, too, I do want to point out, we are also seeing another image. We had seen a man in a red shirt just a short time ago who was in handcuffs, appeared to be detained. It is unclear how that person may have been involved, but it looks like we are back out near that scene where that happened.
Okay, it looks like that the person that they had another person detained as we were watching live from WANF a few moments ago in that red shirt that was turned away from the cameras. They just let him go. We don't know how he was involved in the situation, but they let that person of interest go, as you just seen live right now.
There's a death in the family. It's the challenge of law enforcement. You want to get home to see your family every night, and every single person who's ever put on the uniform knows that feeling, and every law enforcement family knows that feeling of waiting for their loved ones to get home. And one member of the law enforcement community is not going home tonight because of this incident, and you can feel that here. We still do not have confirmation of what agency. We don't know any more details. But what we are getting are pieces of the puzzle, as you saw. Anastasia almost did an excellent job, and so did Andy Parati, of breaking down sort of the imagery that we're seeing and sort of parsing together what happened. Because CNN's John Miller is now reporting that the CDC was actually the target, and it's important to point out that John Miller himself, he was the head of intelligence for the NYPD. He also worked in the federal government. He worked for the FBI. He was a reporter in his earlier life because he was the first guy to interview Osama bin Laden and then went into sort of the Homeland Security sphere. He is better sourced, frankly, than any other journalist or analyst working right now in the United States. And he is saying that his sources are telling him, and we're a CNN affiliate, that the CDC was the target for this shooting. And because he's saying that and then putting that together with Andy Parati's pictures that he obtained from a CDC employee showing those bullet holes in the window, those appear not to have been stray bullets, but this gunman was firing at the CDC. Another CNN report says a CDC employee saw someone with a rifle walking toward the building. There are other videos where you hear multiple gunshots that clearly sound like a rifle. And so that's what police officers were dealing with. Patrol rifles are very common in police vehicles now. Many officers are issued them, and so police officers would have had access to those. But the video that Anastasia almost showed outside the CVS showed those police officers engaging the suspect, engaging the shooter with handguns, with pistols. And you saw classic cover and concealment techniques in that. This is what they trained for. In that video, you saw the officer sort of come out from behind concealment, take a couple of shots, and then go back behind concealment. Now, there's two things, concealment and cover. Those are two different things. They can be the same object. Concealment keeps you from being seen by the shooter so that you are tactically protected, so then you can do a tactical reload, which is very common. Even if you have rounds left in your magazine, you drop that magazine, you put in a fresh load when you're behind concealment and cover. Cover also, hard cover, prevents you from getting shot from bullets coming at you from the shooter. This is classic training, classic techniques that you would see in the academy, where you saw the officer taking both cover and concealment, then re-engaging the gunman, re-engaging that shooter, firing multiple rounds. And the way you do that is you fire a couple of rounds, then you reassess. This is the training. You don't just empty the magazine. This was an experienced officer, or at least a well-trained one, from the video that we see, because you don't see an emptying of a magazine. You know, a Glock 17 holds 18 rounds, plus one in the chamber. So you can empty a lot of rounds without reloading. But in this case, you saw him firing a couple of shots, then reassessing, doing concealment, doing cover. This is excellent police work, and you're also doing this under the adrenaline of you've got someone shooting at you. So it's one thing to go to the range and fire at a target. It's another thing when you have bullets coming at you. And these police officers clearly did an excellent job putting themselves at great risk to try to protect the public. And dare I say it, that probably lives were saved here.
Brendan, thank you so much for that insight. We are told that press briefing is beginning now. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens is speaking. Let's listen in.
Chief Shearbaum, Atlanta Fire Rescue Chief Smith, as well as FBI SAC Brown to my right, and the DeKalb County PIO Officer Wells. We're just a few of the individuals and teams that are here that's been on scene for the last 2 hours, as I've witnessed the coordination amongst many of this active shooter incident that occurred today on the campus of Emory University, just off site of the CDC and next to this CVS pharmacy. This active shooter incident started this afternoon, and Chief Shearbaum will give you some of the details regarding that. I witnessed over the last 2 hours a very coordinated response. A lot of training had to go into how these men and women of Emory University, the DeKalb County Police, the FBI, the City of Atlanta Police, Fire and Rescue from both DeKalb and the City of Atlanta, the GBI, Georgia State Patrol. I saw officers coming from all over to be able to respond to this incident. At this time, Chief Shearbaum will give you more of the details, but at this time, the shooter is deceased, and we don't have any civilians that have been shot in this active shooter incident. Thank God for that. We do have a DeKalb County officer that was also shot, and at this very moment, the CEO of DeKalb County, Lorraine Cochran Johnson, as well as the police chief of DeKalb County, are at the hospital right now, meeting and talking with individuals, the families, and other officers that were involved having to respond to this emergency situation. They will shortly come to this very same spot to give a press conference and an update on that officer and that incident. And at this time also, on the CDC's campus, there are 92 children that are in a daycare that is on this campus. They are safe, and we are setting up with the CDC and all connected parties to be able to get those families reunited with those children at a local school very nearby. And we have the address of that. That Chief will give you the specific address and name of that school nearby. So we are working to unify families, and at this time, there have been no civilian casualties, but this was an active shooter incident. The shooter is now deceased. The campus is, there are no threats on the campus currently, but we still have an active investigation. Atlanta Police Department will be the investigating party, and so we ask that while things are safe, that you don't drive in that part of campus, because we need to make sure that the investigation goes through without any obstruction. Again, to the men and women that work at the CDC, we know that you've had a tough go of it in the past year, and my heart goes out to you as uncertainty was around your occupation and you being citizens of Atlanta. That means something to me. And then today, this occurs. We are with you, we stand with you, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that we bring resolve to this situation. And FBI SAC Brown, he may be able to tell you more about some of the windows that might have been shot on various floors of the CDC as gunfire did take place. The other thing is, to those parents of those 92 children that are at the CDC, I'm a parent as well. I know your uncertainty and your fear and your concern has been high. We wanted to come give you this message that all the children are safe and that we will be making sure that you get reunited with them as soon as possible. I know your heart is just really, really aching, but the good news is none of them have been injured, and we will get you connected to those, to your loved ones really soon. I'll come back to this microphone after others will be given a chance to speak. Now I turn it over to Chief Darren Shearbaum, as Atlanta Police Department has been in coordination with all the other outstanding agencies as we've been working together. And this is why we train on active shooter drills, et cetera, around this region. This has been a group project and a coordinated effort. And Darren Shearbaum, the Atlanta Police Chief, will now address you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief. Just give you an update and some additional information what the mayor provided. So this afternoon at approximately 4:50, the Atlanta 911 Center became aware of a report of an active shooter that was occurring at 1600 Clifton Road. This is right at the intersection of Clifton Road and CDC Parkway, immediately in front of the CDC campus. Officers from multiple agencies responded, from the campus, across the region, from our federal partners and our state partners responded to the scene. Officers arriving found a critically injured DeKalb County police officer that was down. He was immediately extracted from the scene and taken to Grady Memorial Hospital. Officers could still hear gunfire occurring inside the CVS drugstore that is right there at the intersections. Officers moved quickly to attempt to find the shooter and to neutralize the threat to the community. We later found the shooter on the second floor of the CVS. He had been struck by gunfire. We do not know at this time whether that was from officers or if it was self-inflicted. He was removed from the location by Atlanta Fire Rescue to render aid. He did pass at the scene. We also know that the CDC campus did receive multiple rounds into their buildings. Right now, as the mayor stated, we are not aware of any injury that occurred to anyone on that location. 4 other individuals did later arrive at the hospital. They were retreated for stress and anxiety symptoms. They were not injured in the shooting. And to reemphasize what the mayor stated, the children in the daycare center are unharmed. We have law enforcement and medical professionals with them, and we are coordinating the return of those children to their families. We've already put this out. We want to reemphasize it. The CDC leadership is communicating this to all parents, but the reunification site is at the Clifton School, which is located at 1900 Starvine Way, Starvin Way in Decatur. And we want to again reassure all parents and loved ones that their children are okay. We do believe there was a single shooter, and we do believe that single shooter is deceased. Right now, the investigation is being conducted by the Atlanta Police Department's Complex Case Squad. by the GBI and the FBI in a joint investigation until we know more information as to what transpired. The Atlanta Police Department is lifting up the DeKalb County officer, the DeKalb County Police Department in our prayers, and I ask everyone that is watching this broadcast to do the exact same thing. And I want to commend the men and women of law enforcement from all across this region that when this community needs them, no one shirked from the danger. And every officer from multiple jurisdictions responded and immediately moved to end this threat. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Paul Brown, the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Atlanta Division. And like the Chief and the Mayor said, we immediately responded to the scene. At this time, we're not aware of any casualties on the campus of the CDC, but in conjunction with our partners, we're methodically clearing that to ensure that that is accurate and that is remains so. And then once that's done, we'll assist with processing the scene and conducting the investigation jointly with our partners.
Mayor, Chief, we'll get ready for questions. We'll start on this side. We may not be able to get to everyone, but we'll start with you, Rob, over to Mayor's right.
Right.
Good evening, Mayor. Is it believed right now that the CDC was targeted in this attack?
Well, I'll let Chief Sherbaum ask anything around the investigation. He'll be able to answer that. But right now, it's so preliminary. I read social media and I get calls from a number of you that have heard things about this individual's background. He's a white male, and he has he is a known person that may have some interest in certain things that I can't reiterate right now with any confidence until the investigation is fully conducted. But I think that in a short order, you'll know more about this individual and about some assumptions of his motives, but can't say right now.
All right. Can you tell us anything more about the suspect? What kind of weapon did he use? How many rounds went into the CDC building?
Chief, you want to?
No, yeah, we can tell you multiple rounds were fired. We can tell you that multiple rounds were fired, both we believe at law enforcement and potentially at the CDC. Purposely, we can't say it definitively, but it would appear we can't rule that out right now.
Is that CVS a two-story store, or was he in some other kind of place above the store?
We believe it's a multiple-story building, but he was on the second floor of the building that houses the CVS.
Does he have a criminal record?
We can't release that at this time.
Did the man live in that building?
Allow me to let someone else ask a question. Anyone over here at New York Times?
So this shooting comes on the heels of a few other high-profile shootings, including the one in Fort Stewart, including numerous on Edge Road and some other neighborhoods. I'm curious to what extent can the city confront what seems to be a rash of gun violence without state-level intervention?
So your question around a number of high-profile shootings, Fort Stewart, here at Emory, and others across the nation and in the state of Georgia, is definitely one that we have to pay attention to. Mass shootings, active shooter scenarios should not become the norm. We have a number of individuals in this country that have access to high-powered weapons, and for individuals with those high-powered weapons that may have mental challenges, or those individuals with high-powered weapons that are angry, when they choose to use those weapons in a way that harms multiple people, we have to put an end to that in our society. So this is something we do have to have a national and a state, a full conversation across the nation and across the state of Georgia, not just in one city. As you see, this is a coordinated effort across DeKalb, across college campuses, the FBI, the GBI. As you see active shooters across the nation, we've just been added to the statistic.
Right here in black shirt. Allow her opportunity.
That the officer has remained.
Well, at this time, it is a DeKalb County officer, and we want to make sure that DeKalb County is able to respond to what's going on with that officer. We know that he was shot and critically injured, and at this time, as I stand here, I can't give you that information that you just asked. We have the PIO of DeKalb County here, and as I said, in short order, you will hear from the DeKalb County Chief and the DeKalb County CEO.
All right, over here.
Can I ask, why was the DeKalb officer there? I know this area is kind of on that border, but just talk about that, maybe Chief Sherbaum or you, Mr. Mayor.
I want to talk about how mutual aid and how we're all kind of together.
This is an area that is part of the city limits, but inside of DeKalb County, so it's not uncommon for patrol patterns to cross for multiple jurisdictions that may share the space. We don't know why the officer was there. Was he going to work? Was he coming home from work? We don't know if he was on patrol. We will know that at the end of the investigation.
Hang on, Brian. She's got it.
Did you want to give an update?
So we can confirm that our officer was responding to the threat of the active shooter. Yes. Yes, we can confirm that our officer was responding to the threat of the active shooter.
Can you give an update on the condition? There have been several media reports that he's passed away.
So we can't confirm that at this time. Like Mayor said previously, our chief, interim chief Patrick, will be here to provide an update. I just don't have that information readily available.
Ryan, over here, Ryan.
So we are, both chief and mayor, if you can, we're getting reports that maybe the suspect who was known had some issues with the CDC because he was upset about COVID vaccine and he thought it made him sick. Is there any way you guys can maybe address that, and maybe if he was targeting the CDC because of the vaccine?
We cannot confirm at this time. This is in the earliest stages of the investigation. The same questions you have, law enforcement has. And so everything that is the question of the nation, we're going to get the answer to, and we'll be able to report back as soon as we can.
All right, Univision.
Question? No. We're hearing this maybe for the cab, but was this officer a rookie officer? We heard basically he was ambushed a little bit when he actually arrived on the scene.
So any information about the officer will come from interim chief Patrick later this evening, including his status and how long he was with the department.
All right.
Is the white car with the trunk open and shot up, is that connected to the suspect?
It's part of the crime scene at this time. We can't confirm if it was the car that the suspect drove, but it is being searched by the police and it's being held as evidence.
All right. We're going to take the last question right here.
Can you guys have a timeline of when the gunfire was called in and how quickly officers responded and how quickly the suspect was essentially...
4:50 p.m. is when the first call came in. Law enforcement arrived very, very quickly thereafter. Oftentimes when officers arrive, they're so quickly engaged in the scene they just can't radio out. So we'll be reviewing all video to determine when the first officers arrived. But the response was from multiple agencies. I wish I could name everyone right now, but the citizens of the Atlanta region should be proud of their law enforcement today.
Yeah, as Chief stated, this was a coordinated effort. When I was here around 5:15 or so, I was seeing not only DeKalb County and Atlanta, we were seeing Gwinnett County, we saw officers from Dunwoody, we saw, of course, Emory, the FBI, GBI, Georgia State Patrol. Everyone was responding because there were shots being fired, calls for shot being fired right there in front of the CDC, and then shots fired inside of the CVS. And so you're hearing, everyone responded. It was hundreds of officers as well as fire rescue. And at this time, we've spoken with Emory President Finvez, as well as all of the individuals at the CDC, the leadership there, and the leadership of DeKalb County, et cetera. Everyone will continue to give updates throughout this evening. This very same spot will be utilized by DeKalb County as they return from the hospital really soon, as they're talking with families. And as more information becomes available that we can share about the suspect that is now deceased, we will make sure that we share that because we want you to know the mindset, what might have led to this so that we never have it happen again. We want right now to give this update that the area is clear, no threats continue to exist, and we're going to start reuniting families with those children that are in that daycare. And again, the campus has the all clear sign. Stay out of that area right there in front of the CDC and where the CVS is, because it is an active investigation that's being led by APD in coordination with FBI, GBI, and of course with DeKalb County there. That's it at this time.
Thank you, everyone. For any updates, please make sure you follow the Atlanta Police Department social media. That's where we will have updates. That's also where we will let you know where we will have.
We have been listening to a press briefing from Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, as well as Atlanta Police Department Chief Darren Shearbaum, giving us the latest on what took place today. They say the call came in about an active shooter around 4:50 this evening. We know the suspected shooter is dead. And we have Atlanta News First Patrick Quinn on the scene. He's going to debrief us more on what we heard from that press briefing.
Yeah, Patrick, a lot of the information is information we've already been...
Just before 8 o'clock, we're live from Atlanta with continuing coverage, breaking news, and severe weather. Good evening, David Utton in the Channel 1 America Command Center. This time, the breaking news is in Atlanta, where a active shooter situation, pardon me, was up underway just after 5 o'clock this afternoon, where apparently a white male target was not Emory, but the CDC in Atlanta. We do know that some of the windows were shattered, but CDC has those special bulletproof windows. None of the bullets made it inside, thankfully, but the windows were shattered by the bullets. We understand that one, unfortunately, DeKalb police officer was shot and killed tonight as a result of this shooting. Another person was also shot at the CVS nearby. There was a lockdown at Emory University that has been lifted. As far as we know, everyone at Emory is okay. And the shooter has been neutralized, according to police. Now, as far as the theory, CNN was reporting about Atlanta police talking to the victim's family tonight, saying that the shooter made CDC the target because he had got a COVID-19 shot and it gave him an illness. That is a working theory, but the Atlanta Police Department said they cannot confirm or deny that. It continues as part of the investigation at this hour. I'm sure we'll learn more about that theory in the coming hours and days ahead, again, as the investigation continues. Live at the scene is WANF in Atlanta. Let's go back there live.
Break down a few of the things that we're still learning here on scene, and we'll continue to track things right outside the CDC. We're seeing some officers here from the Atlanta Fire Department. They're starting to pack up a little bit, so this scene will decompress over the next half hour or so, and many of those parents who are waiting to connect with their children, they will be able to do so tonight. Blair, Carly.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And there's still so many questions about what led up to this today. We've been reporting on some possible motives. We did not get that confirmation from law enforcement or the mayor during that news conference earlier. They're just simply saying at this point it is too early to identify the shooter, to identify the police officer who was shot, or talk about a motive. But certainly there was a lot of focus on the CDC, and we heard from the mayor who said our hearts go out to the CDC employees and that we are with you and we stand with you. So certainly a lot of concern about what employees of the CDC may be feeling tonight after seeing some of the gunfire that ended up at their buildings.
And a key takeaway here that officials had noted is that there is no further threat that they have deemed to the public anymore. So we know that the lockdown order was lifted on Emory University a time ago, and so we know that there are a lot of people very concerned, very confused, and that's understandable because it is a lot to take in, but they did want to emphasize there is no further threat to the public, that there was one alleged shooter. That shooter is deceased. They say that the shooter, they ultimately found him on the second floor of the CVS. It is unclear if the alleged shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound or if that came from an exchange with law enforcement. They're still working to figure that out, but Blair, as you said, over 90 children at this daycare. Thankfully, everyone okay, but we heard from a number of understandably very concerned parents.
Yeah, that daycare right across the street from where the CDC is, and we saw gunfire through some of the windows there at the CDC, and as one of our investigators here at Atlanta News First, Andy Parati, was showing us, he zoomed in on the picture, and you could see that daycare there being so close, so close to tragedy. I think it's pretty amazing. No civilians were shot here today. This is taking place outside that CVS, some gunfire inside the CVS. This all taking place 4:50, 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon here in this city, which is so busy when people are leaving that area. Certainly there has been tragedy here, but this could have been so much worse with any civilians shot here today.
And we are still awaiting further updates from DeKalb County Police. We understand that one of their officers was critically injured, ultimately transported to the hospital, and waiting to continue to get updates from that department.
And we'll be asking a lot of questions about, the suspect in this case. And they're just not at a point where they're ready to release all that. And I imagine they're going through talking with that person's family and trying to identify where he's from, exactly what led up today, and what's been happening before today. Because it certainly sounds like there is much more to this, as the mayor was alluding to, than just one incident unfolding here this afternoon.
And certainly we heard journalists out there asking questions about the potential connection to the CDC. If the CDC was a target at this time, they have not been able to confirm that. They're, of course, still getting all of the pieces put into place, but we have heard that has been reported as one potential motive for the violence that took place today.
The good news is for people in that community, and there are a lot of people in that community around the campus, around the CDC, a bunch of neighborhoods there, the threat is over at this hour, as we heard from officials, and they said there really is no threat at this point. It's a matter of really the investigation and what's left its mark in that community, and where there'll be so many questions about how this unfolded and what led up to here today.
And we have reporter Niamani Watson standing by for us. Niamani, you were just listening to that press conference. We learned
they gave us a lot more details. I mean, Mayor Andre Dickens spoke about a very coordinated response between multiple agencies about what unfolded today. Now, they also said, like you said earlier, 92 children were in a daycare nearby. Again, they are safe, and right now officials are coordinating reuniting the kids with the families. Now, we know around 4:50, that's when we got reports of shots fired. We know that officials or officers responded to the scene, and they found a DeKalb County officer shot. Again, they said that he was critically injured and that he is at the hospital right now. We know that the DeKalb County police chief and the DeKalb County CEO is at the hospital speaking with the family right now. Now, when officers were at the scene, they also heard gunshots inside of the CVS at Emory Point. They went inside that CVS and they found the suspected shooter on the second floor. We don't know if the suspected shooter died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound or, again, as you mentioned, Carly, in exchange with another officer. But again, multiple agencies responded to this incident, and it was a massive crime scene area. We are hearing from people who lived in apartments nearby saying they heard at least 30 to 60 rounds of gunshots as well. But we'll continue to keep you updated on what's going on. For now, I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Niamani. And I don't know if up some of the video that we heard earlier today talking about that gunfire, because one of our investigators here at Atlanta News First, Anastasia Almos, had some video showing in some of the gunfire outside that CVS, and you could really see it from the police standpoint. Here it is. Can we go and listen in on this? So that video is what we obtained from someone obviously working across the street from that CVS there, who described two batches of gunfire and described it as a shootout between police and the suspect. And that's some of what police talked about as well. But they also just said that at one point the suspect was on the second floor of that CVS outside there. And it looks like there may be some residential up there. So there may have been a way for that suspect to get up there through some stairs or something. But it's just so chilling to kind of see that unfold. And then she said that happened around 5 o'clock, and police said the incident unfolded right at 4:50. So a lot of gunfire was happening here today.
And we see this is from a business across the street. We also heard earlier from someone who says they work at a business next door, a restaurant next door. So as you mentioned, Blair, there are apartments here, there are businesses here, there are restaurants here. And it's still unclear. We haven't pinpointed where all of this began. We don't know where the shooter allegedly first opened fire. We don't know if it ultimately ended at the CVS, if it began at the CVS, and so those are still pieces that we're working to put together.
Yeah, because police said this started in front of the CDC campus, and the CDC campus is quite large.
Yes.
So it very well could have been right there at the CVS. It may not have moved around that much. And so that's something police are going to be piecing together, and they're going to be out there for a while as we show you live pictures there from the scene where law enforcement, other first responders, a wide area that is blocked off there, Clifton Road, where this has taken place today, as they now try to explain the tragedy that has unfolded here today.
Yeah, we're looking, this is all taking place in the area at Clifton Road and CDC Parkway, right at that intersection. And we see that law enforcement response is not slowing down, not tapering off. This is still a very active investigation. And as Chief Shearbaum said, they are still trying to figure all of this out for themselves as well. So they were able to give us some preliminary details, but that's exactly what it is right now, preliminary. So this is still, investigators are going to be on the scene all night long trying to work through it. And we are still going to be continuing to work to get answers about the identity of the suspected shooter. Again, the suspected shooter who is now deceased. And as you said, thankfully we have learned that no civilians were injured, no civilians were shot.
One thing that was interesting, we heard from law enforcement and officials say that 4 people ended up in the hospital for stress from what happened here today. And you can only imagine, and we've heard from a number of witnesses today who heard the gunfire, they saw people running. You can, and then the parents who were trying to get to those 92 kids, some of them I don't think still have gotten to them. They've had a reunification point, but they're trying to do that now. But the stress of what people have gone through today, experiencing this, is just so devastating for so many people to be that close to something, knowing there was some kind of loss of life.
We have Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe on the scene. He is positioned right outside of the hospital where that DeKalb County officer was taken. Brendan, I'm curious, is there a law enforcement response out there? We know that when an officer is down, that there are usually several different law enforcement agencies, fellow officers out there showing their support.
Yes, Carly, I was just looking behind me because we have seen a lot of activity. What we have seen is a tremendous amount of DeKalb Police Department cars here. Also DeKalb Sheriff also here, but DeKalb Police mostly here, lots of hugging. We have seen some folks go in, and we are told there's going to be an 8:30 news conference right here next to where I'm standing. We're all lined up for that any moment. And let me just, okay, they're just going to be moving us in a second. I was just listening to make sure I wasn't missing a briefing. We are told that they're going to be out here at 8:30, so that's about 21 minutes from now, giving us a briefing. You heard Chief Shearbaum essentially deferring to the DeKalb Police Department, and out of respect, there is an officer down, and out of respect, they are not going to break any news about another department's officer. And they're going to wait for the DeKalb Police Department to come out and tell us the news. But we have confirmed from multiple high-level sources that a police officer is dead, and that wasn't refuted in that news conference. They were just merely deferring to the police department involved because they weren't there to be able to break that news at the moment, essentially. And also, we are told the family is inside the hospital, and so the family is briefed, the family knows. We always withhold the notification of the death of a police officer until we get that confirmation from the police department involved, because we do want to make sure that we are not the ones informing the next of kin that has happened. But the law enforcement family here, you can definitely feel it. We're analyzing that video. Job. Most definitely lives were saved here. Whether or not the suspect, the shooter, was killed by police gunfire or by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, we do know that that shooter was boxed in and was in the second floor of the CVS because of that massive police response. And so they were, so long as police are engaging the shooter is not engaging the public. And so it is absolutely clear at this point that lives were saved. We know from multiple videos, some of which are on social media and aren't cleared for broadcast right now, that there were multiple gunshots, and we do have reports of a rifle involved. I mean, there could have been mass casualties here, and according to police, there are no civilian casualties. So it is very clear that the police response here has saved lives. It's obvious. We don't need an official to tell us that because the facts bear this out, simply because the police were engaging the shooter. The shooter has been neutralized one way or the other, and the shooter did not take out any civilians, which is extraordinary when you see those bullet holes that Andy Parati was able to get photographs of from CDC employees. And by the way, that's from Andy's deeply sourced within the CDC because he has done so many investigations involving the CDC. The CDC employees trust him, and he's connected with them. And he is also plugged into signal chats with them. So he was able to see those photos before anybody else and was able to get those cleared to bring to you. So we are starting to piece together more and more of exactly what's happening here. 20 minutes. For this news conference. You can see some of the media behind me moving here. We can reposition, and once we do, we'll be back here live with you. But for now, we're at Emory Hospital. I'm Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe.
Right, I think he brings up a really good point talking about civilians. You and I were just talking about the same thing. That police response said about how police responded to this today.
And we saw such a large scale effort. We saw that response with multiple different agencies, one that shows the seriousness of this situation, but also, to Brendan's point, could have prevented a situation that is even worse than one that we already saw.
Sure. Let's bring in our colleague, Atlanta News First anchor Joe Gorcho, who's there out on the scene. And Joe, I know this has been unfolding here this afternoon, and we've seen parents trying to reach those kids, those 92 kids, that daycare across the street from the CDC. Do you have any insight on where that stands here tonight?
Well, we're still seeing some parents file in right now. We're by one of the preschools here on one of the Emory University campuses. I'm sorry, the address is eluding me right now because from some of the parents that are coming here to this scene, and there's about maybe 10 or so that have arrived to this point. This will be the reunification site for those parents of kids at that daycare right now, and you can just see in my brief conversations with a couple.
This is David Utton in the Channel 1 America Command Center in Atlanta, 8:16 Eastern Time, and we're live from Atlanta with continuing coverage, breaking news, and severe weather, where tonight we have an active shooter that's been neutralized in Atlanta. The target was apparently the CDC Center in Atlanta, placed a daycare in Emory University on lockdown late this afternoon. One police officer in the Atlanta area is deceased along with the shooter. One other was struck by gunfire, is injured. We do not know their condition at this time. We do know that none of the children at the daycare were injured. They're currently about to be reunited after all this time with their because police have had the area of the daycare, which is right across the street from the CVS, by the way. blocked off for the last several hours, and finally reunifications there. Let's go back to WANF for continuing coverage.
More and more parents here of children from that daycare begin to arrive on Starvine Way here at the Clifton School. That's the reunification site. That's the site I was trying to recall when you first sent it to me here, Blair and Carly. Again, there's so much happening here, and you're just trying to take it in and trying to really understand and feel that emotion and that pain these parents are experiencing. There might be a moment, there's that brief euphoric moment when they see their child for the first time and hug them, but rest assured, long recovery. There's going to be a lot of emotion and trauma associated with this moment here in time, and so hopefully we'll speak with more parents, just get a sense of how they're doing. And for those of you, again, who have children in that daycare, if you're not aware, or you have loved ones that work at that daycare, Starvine Way, the Clifton School, is the reunification site, so we'll be here for quite some time as we look to see how they're going to be able to reunite these families here. But certainly a very tough day indeed for many of these parents, the waiting, the longing to hug their child again after hours and hours of just unknown and so much anxiety, Blair and Carly.
And Joe, I'm trying to think about how these parents talk to their kids about this. You're talking about very young kids who are still away from their house. Here we are at 8:18 at night. For many kids that age, that's we're at bedtime. You know, I have 3 kids, you have 2 daughters, you know, and I just think about how do these parents have these conversations with their kids who are going to boil this down the most basic reality of what the tragedy has happened today and of what they saw and heard.
It's certainly, Blair, you're so right, and certainly the age difference too. This is where, you know, I would imagine in the near future there'll be trained professionals to help some of these parents and these families, guide them through these conversations. It certainly will vary from different age groups, but certainly you're talking about like the 3 to 4-year-old range, especially. These are difficult conversations, Blair. You're right, and even with tonight's routine, I can only imagine what the staff is going through right now with these children, trying to keep them calm, trying to keep them playful, and in a situation very, very difficult, especially with the woman we spoke with. Her child's a year and a half. I have twin daughters that are exactly that age right now, and I can only imagine that anxiety of wondering, they're out of routine. How are they holding up? I know how my twin girls are at like 8 o'clock at night, Blair. They're freaking out. They're having meltdowns. They're ready to go to sleep. So this is certainly, and I love my girls. I'm not trying to say anything, but you know, they're a year and a half. But that's the whole point. There's just a lot of anxiety and stress, the unknowns. They're in a different routine right now, and certainly the trauma of being involved in a situation where there's gunfire, you're fearing for your life. And so I can only commend the staff. I haven't been able to speak with anyone, but I did speak with a gentleman whose daughter works there and just got a little bit of a sense of what they were going through. And I really do commend the daycare staff and what they've had to go through today to maintain that level of calm and poise, keep the children in a safe space, in a good mental place during this really tough ordeal. So that's something hopefully throughout the next coming days we can really highlight, Blair, because you can only imagine what that staff was going through. Like you mentioned, 92 children attend that daycare, and that staff really, for these last 3 to 4 hours, have really been pushed to do the best they can to keep calm and help these children navigate this really, really difficult situation.
Yeah, and this just wasn't a quick situation either. From all accounts, there was a lot of gunfire. This went over time. I mean, you're talking about a shootout right across the street. So this wasn't just 1 or 2. Gunshots. This was 10 to 30, who knows at this point. That's certainly one of the questions, and I think you're right. It's one of the stories that will be coming out of this is, you know, what unfolded in so many of these different parts of our community as this tragedy was happening.
Blair, without a doubt, and you know what I'm looking forward to most is just to see those moments, and like I get emotional thinking about it, even some, you know, brief tears for a brief moment, just seeing what that moment will be like when kids can hug, when parents can hug their kids for the first time. We're seeing more and more parents come into the parking lot here at Clifton School. A lot of anxious faces, a lot of like longing moments, waiting for that time where they can see their children again. it's just one of those things, Blair, you probably never think about as a parent, and far too often we're seeing these play out. The mayor, Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, was talking about it. This is not just isolated here to Atlanta, toward the Emory University campus and by this daycare here today in terms of this type of shooting. We're seeing these far too often throughout our country at this moment, and there's too many communities that are having to deal with this space. And I think sometimes it's different when you're watching it play out on TV and you're watching news coverage as opposed to being here, being in the moment, and also being around people who are directly affected from this. And Brendan, I thought, said it best. Brendan Keefe, a reporter, senior investigator, said it best. I thought that because of the courageous actions of law enforcement acting swiftly, like you mentioned, Blair, engaging in that shootout, it probably saved lives, and so many lives were care in the surrounding area because of the way law enforcement moved in so swiftly. I'm sure we'll get more details about what took place in the days ahead, but I kind of on the same page of our senior investigator, Brendan Keefe, in terms of really processing that and how they acted to keep our community safe in really what was just a horrific moment in time.
Well, and I think as we learn much more about this, we're only going to learn more about the steps that were taken today and what truly unfolded, and how close this was to being even more tragic than it already has been. Hey, Joe, hang with us for a second. I want you to listen to the soundbite.
It's devastating.
We were just listening to Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens. He was talking about those children that you were talking about. Let's go listen to hear what he had to say in this news conference just moments ago.
To those parents of those 92 children that are at the CDC, I'm a parent as well. I know your uncertainty and your fear and your concern has been high. We wanted to come give you this message that all the children are safe and that we will be making sure that you get reunited with them as soon as possible.
You heard it right there from Mayor Andre Dickens. Knowing that everyone's safe, the 92 children are accounted for, and they're working to reunite them. And this is where the reunification will take place, Star Vine Way here at the Clifton School. And again, we're seeing more parents continue to pull into this parking lot, and you see some of them sitting on the ground. They're commiserating with each other, some with their hands folded, some pacing back and forth. I think everyone handles emotions differently, especially when you're in a high-stress situation and really the unknown about how your child's really handling this moment. I mean, that's the thing, right? Think about this, Blair. If you have a child who's, at least at an age where they have a cell phone, you can communicate them in a situation that's as horrific as this, as a shooting event. You can kind of at least get the sense and try to help your child navigate it. Now we're talking about children that are in daycare, that are a year old, 2, 3, 4, and there's no direct line of communication with your child. So I can only imagine how they're feeling right now, knowing all you want to do is wrap your arms around them. So that's kind of the difficulty of this situation, of the wait and the hours that go by, because you can't really speak with your child, and all you want to do is tell them it's going to be okay.
Well, Joe, we are hoping for that moment very soon for these families. And you had talked about Brendan Keefe's report. I do want to point out, when we were speaking with him, he was playing some video. This was given to us by a source from the CDC, given to investigator Andy Perotti, where we saw the bullet hole in the window, and then it was zooming in on the corner. And I think for viewers that were just joining us, they may not have realized what we were looking at, but it was the slide to the playground that was just outside of the window. And it's horrific to think about just how close all of this was. But thankfully, again, that the situation did not turn out worse than it did. Joe, we know that we will check back with you later on.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, Carly. I'm glad you shared that with me.
And
I appreciate you sharing that with me, because we've been traveling back and forth, and I'm trying to listen to a reporting here and there. So just even hearing you say that right now, it just puts a lot of things into perspective, even for me, as I'm here on the ground trying to, get a sense of more what these parents are going through. But that's startling. I actually didn't know that's how close it was.
Definitely puts things in pretty sobering perspective. And so we will check back with you as these families get reunited. We know that there are going to be a lot of hugs, a lot of tears, happy tears this evening. Thank you so much. Atlanta News First anchor Joe Gorcho reporting live for us.
Right now, as we continue with our live coverage of the active shooter that happened today here outside the CDC's headquarters in DeKalb County, we are waiting for an update from DeKalb County Police. That's what you're looking at here on the little hard for me to tell because our monitor's reversed
Right.
on the left-hand side of your screen, I believe, or right-hand side of your screen, and that's where police will be giving us an update on what's happened today from their perspective, because they had an officer who responded to this incident here today. Our sources are telling us that that officer has passed away. Law enforcement did not confirm that in the last briefing, but that was a briefing held by Atlanta officials who were handling that and wanted to defer to DeKalb County. So we will be hearing much more from their perspective here, and we expect that to begin around 8:30. But as these things often unfold, things can change with their investigations, and they can push things back. So that's what we're waiting for to happen at this point. Get an update from DeKalb County Police and their response here today.
And we also know that there were a number of DeKalb County police officers outside of the hospital where that officer was taken. We saw from report of Brendan Keefe that family members were going inside of the hospital. We know a number of different officers were there showing their support. And so we are awaiting official word, official confirmation. As you said, we have heard that an officer has lost their life today, and we are waiting to get the official word from the DeKalb County Police Chief. But from all law enforcement agencies, what we witnessed today, bravery, heroism, a coordinated and a very large-scale response from multiple different agencies.
And that work does not end at this point, because as we're showing you some video from the First Alert Chopper over the scene earlier today, you can see that response you're talking about, Carly, and that's what happens in these situations. It's this video right here that I think really stood out to us as it was unfolding. We saw officers with their guns out, running over to that CVS, and at the same time, we were getting countless messages from the campus, from law enforcement for people to stay away, that was an active shooter situation, and seeing it all unfold in real time.
And I just cannot imagine getting that update to run, hide, fight when you see those words. I mean, I just can't even imagine the fear.
This is continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. It's 8:30. We're live from Atlanta with Channel 1 American News. Your top story this half hour, still developing. An active shooter has been neutralized in Atlanta and DeKalb County tonight after a active shooter situation that occurred there just after 5 o'clock this Friday evening. The police, the suspect is dead. We understand. We do not know if it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound or if this happened from one of the police officers. Speaking of police officers, we have some unfortunate news to tell you about right now. An Atlanta area officer has died after he was shot by the shooter rushing to the scene near a CVS. It's near the Emory University in Atlanta. Apparently the shooter's target was a CDC. All this is in the same area. And glass did shatter at the CDC, but nothing penetrates inside the building. But it did shatter the windows.
A flat major.
I don't know what that was, but apparently
a flat major.
Well, we'll try to get our microphone fixed, and we'll be right back with you. Let's go back to WANF in Atlanta.
employees. You know, I know our staff has been speaking with some of those CDC employees today who heard the gunfire, saw their windows shattered from that gunfire, and you know, how they returned to work. Thoughts are with them.
Just so alarming to see, and I imagine the person who took these images, the CDC employee that provided these images to Atlanta News First, if you work in this building and you see something like that at your place of work, however far from your office, from where you do your job day to day. Again, this is a Friday evening. People probably just about to head home for the day, head home for the evening and enjoy their weekend, and now having to contend with something like this, to have this sort of fear and trepidation at their own place of work.
And wondering how you come back to it. You know, honestly, when you go through something like this, you know, I always get so concerned, and you and I have covered sadly these things too often, and it's always, how do people respond to this the weeks and months after they experience something that is so so gut shattering? You know, how do you know, everybody moves on, you know, this world moves so quickly, and how do people who truly are impacted by this come back in the weeks and the months, and how do they move forward? It's tough.
And of course, it's not even just the CDC employees,
Right.
but Atlanta News First anchor Joe Gorcho, he was talking about how a police officer was escorting a woman who appeared to be an employee of the CVS across the street, where the suspected shooter was found deceased. This officer was consoling her and helping her, escorting her across the street. We know they witnessed what took place today. We know that they witnessed whatever exchange may have happened that we are hoping to learn more about. And we also know, again, we saw that eyewitness account from the cell phone video just across the street, where they saw law enforcement engaging this video. Of course, we know that the CDC employees were affected. We know the CVS employees were affected, and anyone who lives or works in this area had to hear this, and as we heard, probably at first couldn't even process what it was that they were hearing.
And all of this, Carly, coming just days after another high-profile incident, also here in Georgia, of course, talking about the shooting that happened at Fort Stewart Army base earlier this week, just days after that.
And that was what Governor Brian Kemp had alluded to when he spoke about this on social media platform X, saying that we have had to deal with these two tragic incidents in just 24 hours.
Yeah, and the mayor was talking about this. Mayor Andre Dickens of Atlanta was talking about this, and here's some of what he had to say in that news conference.
So your question around a number of high-profile shootings, Fort Stewart, here at Emory, and others across the nation and in the state of Georgia, is definitely one that we have to pay attention to. As you see active shooters across the nation, we've just been added to the statistic.
Yeah, he talks about the statistics. I think just yesterday we were talking about FBI statistics saying that violent crime was down here in Atlanta, and the statistics can say everything. It's, you know, what's the perception today and this week? It's a tough perception, and it's a tough conversation for a lot of communities to be having, and add us to the list. And
as Mayor Andre Dickens was saying, this is something they have to look at. This is something they have to consider, and that they have to be aware of. And it's sad that we have to be aware of these things, but unfortunately, the timing of some recent incidents that we have seen here in Metro Atlanta, that we have seen here in Georgia, don't do much to comfort families who may be watching, who are witnessing this, who live in these communities and say, like you said, Blair, the numbers may say one thing, but I'm seeing right now in front of me something different.
That news conference is now getting underway or about to get underway by DeKalb County law enforcement and officials. We expect that to begin here any moment now, where we're expecting an update from DeKalb County Police, the role they played, because some of their officers did respond here today to this incident. It looks like they are maybe trying to get ready, maybe just a few minutes out. And the way these things tend to work is every agency tries to be respectful of the other, to let their news conference play out and not try to break any news for the other. So you had Atlanta officials giving their update. They're the lead investigator on this case and what has happened, and so they will lead what's been happening, and they deferred to DeKalb County Police. They wanted the acting police chief to be there, and the acting police chief, I believe, was meeting with the family and other law enforcement members there to in advance of what's going to be happening. So.
And we also anticipate DeKalb County CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson to be out there as well. So that is what we're watching and waiting for any moment. As in these situations, we get pieces of information a little bit at a time. We get what we are hearing here in the newsroom that we are able to independently confirm with our reporters who have boots on the ground. And then we have the press conference, as we heard from law enforcement, from the Atlanta mayor, and now another briefing in which we can get a little bit more. So each time sort of chipping away, adding another piece to the puzzle to paint a full picture of what transpired today. But we do know, if you are just now joining us, that a call came in just before 5 p.m. of an active shooter. This happening at the CVS at Emory Point, there on Emory's campus, directly across from the CDC there in Atlanta. And so the circumstances of the shooting are still unclear, but we know that based on what law enforcement has told us, that there was one alleged shooter involved, and they are now deceased. It sounds like the press conference is beginning now.
Speaking today, we have Chief Pedrick from the DeKalb County Police Department, as well as CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson. We'll start with Chief Pedrick from the Police Department.
Evening, everyone. My name is Greg Pedrick. I'm the interim chief for the DeKalb County Police Department. I'm not going to comment on the investigation and what's going on with the investigation that's being conducted by the Atlanta Police Department with assistance from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. But what I can say, it is with profound sadness that we announce the loss of the life of one of our very own DeKalb County police officers. This officer responded to the call as he was trained to do. And during that incident, he received gunfire and he lost his life in this incident. He was committed to serving the community. At this time, we're asking for the community's prayers for his family, his friends, his loved ones, and the entire DeKalb County Police Department family. It's a noble profession that we all do. We answer the call to serve our community, and he gave his life with a commitment to serve others, and he should be respected for that. At this time, we are not going to release his name with respect for the family, but we will provide his name and photograph at a later time. We ask for your prayers and your thoughts during this difficult time, especially for his family and for all of the officers involved in this incident and the DeKalb County Police Department. Thank you.
Good evening. Of course, I'm Lorraine Cochran-Johnson, DeKalb County CEO. And today is a very dark day in DeKalb County, as we stand before you during the loss of one of our beloved officers. This evening, there is a wife without a husband. There are 3 children, one unborn without a father. There is a mother and a father, as well as siblings, who also share in this traumatic loss. This evening, my heart goes out to the family, as well as the DeKalb County family, and to our frontline responders, to our officers, who in this case simply answered the call. These are individuals who run towards danger when we have the ability to run away. So tonight, it is with profound sadness that I stand here and I say to all of those who serve as frontline responders and to our officers that we are here to support you, and to this family and to my DeKalb County family during this time. Let's join together to give this family the support that it needs during this traumatic loss. Thank you. So those are the official statements at this time. We will not take questions right now. We do plan to have an updated statement for you as we receive more information. Thank you.
A thin blue line feeling deep pain and sorrow tonight. DeKalb County confirming much of what we reported. DeKalb County police officer lost his life in that tragedy that unfolded outside Emory University and CDC headquarters earlier today.
At this time, they have not released the officer's name as they continue to notify his family, but we have learned that he leaves behind a wife and 3 children. One of those children has not even been born yet. So very sad news to have to report tonight, a very sad breaking update that we have to deliver.
It is tragedies like these that bring a community together, but also lead to many questions about why this happened today. And that is something many in the law enforcement community, but also in our own community, are asking, why did this happen? That motive has not been released. That's something Atlanta police continue to investigate, and they held their news conference earlier and laid out what they thought, where the investigation stood and what they knew. The shooter is dead, but also tonight, a member of our local law enforcement community is also dead. And
CEO of DeKalb County, Lorraine Cochran-Johnson, saying this is a dark day for DeKalb County. So we are going to continue to stay on top of any breaking developments as we continue to learn them. Remember, Atlanta News First is your source for breaking news. We will update you both on air and online. Keep in mind our Atlanta News First app. You can get any breaking updates as we anticipate a lot more answers coming up sent directly to your phone.
Our next newscast is tonight at 10 o'clock. We hope to see you then.
St. Croix, a vibe like no other. U.S. Virgin Islands, naturally in rhythm.
A diaper this leak-free sets them free. Only Pampers Cruisers 360 have a 360 stretchy waistband for up to 100% leak-proof fit on every wild child. Pampers Cruisers 360, now with a new low price.
Para los grandes, para los chicos, para los bajitos y los altos, los pacifistas, los valientes, para los optimistas y los pesimistas. Los que valoran lo de adentro, para los que están lejos, los que no ven de lejos y los que no ven de cerca, para los introvertidos y los extrovertidos, para los que piensan y los que hacen, para los que nos mostraron el camino. Coca-Cola, para todos.
Save up to $7,200 when you purchase a new heating and cooling system from All Good Home Services. Get up to $7,200 in discounts and tax credits, plus payments as low as $159 per month. All Good offers expert technicians, flexible financing options, and our exceptional service guarantee to ensure your home comfort year-round. Request your free consultation with All Good Home Services today. Call 770-250-5707 to schedule your appointment.
Call allgood.com.
St. Croix, a vibe like no other.
A diaper this leak-free sets them free. Only Pampers Cruisers 360 have a 360 stretchy waistband for up to 100% leak-proof fit on every wild child. Pampers Cruisers 360, now at the new low price.
Save up to $7,200 when you purchase a new heating and cooling system from All Good Home Services. Get up to $7,200 in discounts and tax credits, plus payments as low as $159 per month. All Good offers expert technicians, flexible financing options, and our exceptional service guarantee to ensure your home comfort year-round. Request your free consultation with All Good Home Services today. Call 770-250-5707 to schedule your appointment.
Call allgood.com.
Are you feeling the pains of a bad 18-wheeler wreck? I've got this. I'm attorney Ken Nugent. I've got a top-notch group of lawyers who stand firm against an insurance company's greedy ways. We'll do it the easy way or the hard way, but we won't stop until they pay you the maximum settlement you deserve. One call, that's all. Watch it go!
CallKen.com.
Bye-bye now. That's right. Run to mommy.
Here's another home ready to get Window World windows, and this is why they chose us.
Window World is America's #1 replacement window company. And since we sell so many windows, we can beat anybody's prices. Our windows are made right here in the USA. Energy Star rated, backed by the Good Housekeeping seal, with a lifetime transferable warranty, including glass breakage. At Window World, not only do we stand behind our windows,
We stand on them.
call us now for your free in-home estimate.
Window World, simply the best for less.
St. Croix, a vibe like no other.
Save up to $7,200 when you purchase a new heating and cooling system from All Good Home Services. Get up to $7,200 in discounts and tax credits, plus payments as low as $159 per month. All Good offers expert technicians, flexible financing options, and our exceptional service guarantee to ensure your home comfort year-round. Request your free consultation with All Good Home Services today. Call 770-250-5707 to schedule your appointment.
Call allgood.com.